the discussion from Minnesota. And today I have a big surprise. That is Venerable Yuttadhamma Bhikkhu. He joined this discussion after a long time. He was traveling to Thailand. Now I just learned he went to Sri Lanka. So he's joining the discussion from a beautiful monastery. Early morning is for you in Sri Lanka. So welcome back to our biweekly Sutta discussion. That we have Venerable Shanta Sobana. He's joining the discussion from California, Los Angeles, and it was such a joy to see him last week. I went to see him actually in Los Angeles. He's doing amazing. It was such a great joy to see you, Venerable Shanta Sobana. And then we have Venerable Trudeau. He's joining the discussion from Florida. And then we have Venerable Bhante Kusala. He's joining the discussion from Boston. And we also have another monk, Venerable Jaguru Bhikkhu, but you can't see him, but he's listening. So we are very happy to have him for this discussion today. And also today we invited a special guest for this discussion. He did not join us yet. I'm just wondering whether he got the link or not. I think Venerable Kamasri,
he got the link. I just called before 10 minutes ago also. He was getting ready.
Okay, and he will join us soon. His name is
We have a pause. I'm not sure what's going on here, but
we lost him.
Okay.
We thought of having him for this discussion, but he is the weather today, but he will try his best to join our discussion. Welcome all our devotees and friends who are here on Zoom platform, and also who are watching this program on Facebook and YouTube Live. And I have a very kind request from all of you. If possible, please share this program in your social media timeline for the greater benefit of your family, friends, and relatives. And by sharing on your timeline is the way of giving a gift of Dhamma, sharing a gift of Dhamma with your friends for their own spiritual benefit. And also, I would like to just remind our friends who are in GTA, and if possible, please join our annual the conference. So we call it. This is the 7th annual Kindful Canada Symposium. It's a national conference on mental health and kindfulness. And we have a great team of speakers coming to make great presentations. And so these are the people. And also, if you would like to attend this conference, maybe you can just scan this QR code to get to know all the profiles and also what the speakers are going to make their presentation about, and also about our mission. And so this is a ticketed event, and if you would like to attend, again, you can purchase the ticket on Eventbrite. So just scan this code. Okay, so having said that, today we are going to discuss the very interesting topic. I think we all talk about this word mindfulness, and so yesterday, actually, I was having a very nice conversation with Bante Kamalasuri from Minnesota, and so he kind of suggested this a very short sutta of the Samyutta Nikaya, and so this is come from Samyutta Nikaya, the Salayatana Vagga Pali. Under Salayatana Vagga Pali, there is another section called Asankhata Samyutta. Under the Asankhata Samyutta section, we find this short discourse is called the Sati Bala Sutta. So the discourse on the strength of mindfulness, and I think the discourse on the strength of German monk, the Venerable Jnana Ponika, maybe he authored a book called The Power of Mindfulness. Maybe it was he got that title from the sutta Sati Bala, and so in that sutta, Buddha just talks about it's called the Katamota Bhikkhave Asankhata Gami Maggo. And it says, Idans is the path leading to the unconditioned, that it is nirvana, the enlightenment. So Buddha says here, a monk develops the strength of mindfulness. This monk is called the path leading to the unconditioned. So now here is a very typical question. Especially, I was going to ask our guest monk, the most venerable Omal Pesobita, but he's not here. But today we are very fortunate even to have Venerable Bhante Yoga Rahula, who is also an expert on mindfulness. I would like to begin with you. I see. I think he's still joining. But until he joins, I would like to ask this question. Now, Venerable Bhante Yoga Rahula, of course, you teach meditation. You are also one of the well-known meditation masters in the world. And why Buddha pointed out on this sati, the mindfulness, as the power, as the strength in realizing or attaining nirvana or enlightenment?
Well, to start off with, in the time of the Buddha, there was a young monk who was just starting his training, but he had all these Vinaya rules to follow and so much things that he had to learn. And he got so confused that he thought he would disrobe.
Yeah.
And he went to the Buddha and he said, I can't, sort out all these different rules and teachings. And then he said, well, can you remember one? And the monk said, yeah, I think I can remember one. And then the Buddha said, remember mindfulness. So you can see with that statement that mindfulness, and when we read the suttas, mindfulness is mentioned almost in every single category of teaching that the Buddha gave. And also mindfulness precedes concentration and all the different lists of the Eightfold Path, the factors of enlightenment, the spiritual faculties, spiritual powers, and so on. So anyway, there's two levels in the Buddhist teaching. Everything is usually on two levels, but especially like practicing Dhamma, the Noble Eightfold Path. So mindfulness, of course, is the seventh step of the Eightfold Path. And it is, there's the mundane Eightfold Path and the super mundane Eightfold Path. A lot of people kind of forget that. And So ordinary mindfulness is mindfulness that has not overcome the hindrance. So that's ordinary mindfulness, the way most people practice, mindfulness when they haven't reached the level of the first jhana. Their mind is, afflicted by hindrances and so on. And so, it stays in a mundane level. And the Buddha defined the supramundane path as having the right view. So there's mundane Eightfold Path and supramundane Eightfold Path. And that supramundane Eightfold Path is, said to be the comes with the experience of entering the stream, of overcoming the three fetters and entering the stream. Then it becomes the supramundane and Eightfold Path, and then it becomes the spiritual. Then it becomes the Buddha talked about the five faculties. So the five faculties of faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. So this is before one has entered the stream with ordinary. And only by reaching the stream, and usually that's caused by the right concentration. So right concentration in the Eightfold Path is defined as having one of the four jhanas. So attaining jhana is sort of the criterion that separates faculties or elevates the five spiritual faculties to the five spiritual powers. Because it's very interesting that, in the 37 requisites of enlightenment, the five spiritual powers, that means faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, are mentioned twice. There's two separate groups of the same fact. So you have to think, why did the Buddha, include these same factors in two different groups? So the faculties, the way that I see it is, it's like you go to university, you have a faculty teaching. So he teaches you or advises you on your work in a PhD. So they get you on the right track. And the spiritual powers, the spiritual faculties, when they're still in a mundane state, we read the sutras, we gain an intellectual wisdom, we're practicing kind of ordinary mindfulness, maybe up to the level of access concentration or whatever, but it's still, but it gets us on the track. And so, in leading up to that point, when eventually we would then, attain the first stage of, enlightenment. And then with the first stage, that's considered, now those faculties are powers because now they go on by themselves. In the beginning, we have to struggle to develop and practice mindfulness and concentration. We have to keep on, reading sutras, gaining understanding, and this also increases our faith. But with at that stage of entering the stream, that's when mindfulness becomes a power that it kind of works almost automatically. And so it's not such a struggle. And therefore, one also gains the concentration. Now, a lot of people think concentration is a separate practice from mindfulness, but actually, you gain concentration through mastering or developing mindfulness. We can see that in the 7 factors of enlightenment, even in the spiritual faculties, and even in the Buddhist sutras, where he talks about the 5 or the 4 jhanas, is entering into the first, second, third, fourth jhana. Then one bends one's mind toward the overcoming of the defilements. He doesn't say come out of the jhanas and then practice, mindfulness. Yeah. So actually, mindfulness is how we overcome hindrances. You have to be aware of the mindfulness, whether a hindrance arising, apply the appropriate antidotes, and then that's how your concentration improves. So it becomes unbroken mindfulness and gaining that power that it can penetrate through the veil of illusion and to realize anicca, dukkha, and at least in that first stage. So that's why the mindfulness, the power of the mindfulness, is what develops the power of concentration. And the Buddha has said that one who is concentrated sees reality as it is. But it's concentration that is supported by mindfulness. And even the Buddha also has said that in the Noble Eightfold Path, the right concentration is supported by all of the other path factors, the right understanding and right mindfulness. To call it really right concentration. That's a problem these days. People talk about concentration and mindfulness, but they forget about the right, the qualifying factor that makes it the Buddha's teaching of right mindfulness and right concentration, which has these, qualifying factors to them. So that's why, the term, the power of mindfulness, as you mentioned, Venerable Ponika has wrote one of the best books on mindfulness called The Power of Mindfulness. That was one of the first books I read when I went to Sri Lanka 50 years ago. And, I use that as sort of one of my, Bibles, you might say, in terms of understanding that and then using that, of course, to develop more. So anyway, that's what I wanted to.
And I think that the Canadian spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle also authored a book called Power of Now. Maybe he's also got influenced by that topic of power of mindfulness, based on this Bali term, the Sati Bala.
Because actually the power of mindfulness is when the mind is fully grounded in the present moment. It's flowing from moment to moment without getting caught in past or future thoughts, nor getting hung up on the present. It's flowing with each moment of consciousness. So that power of now means that unbroken mindfulness. Concentration means unbroken mindfulness. It's not something separate from mindfulness. It's unbroken mindfulness, whether it's focused on one object, such as the breathing, or it's focused on the flow of the six senses.
Yeah, thank you, Bhante Yoga Rahula, for sharing your insights regarding this topic. And I saw the most venerable Omar Besobi there. I don't. Oh, okay. I see. So today we are very fortunate and blessed to have among us is the most venerable Dr. Omar B. Sobit and Naga Mahatera. And of course, Naga Hamdru, I have never met you, but I have seen you zillion times in the media, and also have read some of your works. And I had the good fortune of speaking to you when I went to Malaysia. The temple you established in Kuantan, and I think your student Venerable Susila called you, and so you wanted to talk to me, and it was such a great joy for me to have a brief conversation, and then I got to know you came to the United States for the Vassa, and you observed the Vassa in Kentucky Buddhist Meditation Center. And then yesterday, Bhante Kamanasri from Minnesota, who is a good friend of mine, we studied together. And he kind of told me to see whether we could have a discussion with you. And I said that would be an absolute honor, but due to my Dhamma tour in the States, we could not have it 2 weeks ago. So yesterday we had the conversation, and in the night, and then I know he said we will try. So you also feeling kind of not well, I was told, but you made sure to join this discussion. And there's one CD. You have such a beautiful the voice, and you chanted the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, And even when I go to different houses, even in Bangladesh, if they play your CD, Sati Mahasatipatthana Sutta chanting and loudspeakers. Even recently, when I went to Los Angeles, they were playing your CD on Satipatthana Sutta chanting. So that's the very reason why we have chosen this topic based on the Satipala Sutta of the Samyutta Nikaya, which is a brief sutta. And our simple question, I know the most venerable Yoga Rahula just shared his understanding of this Satipala. So we have this question: how developing mindfulness as a strength can lead to the attainment of nirvana. So now our question is, why Buddha emphasized on the sati as a bala, as a power, as a strength in attainment of enlightenment or awakening or nirvana? So we would like to know your perspective on it.
Venerable, thank you, Venerable. I am today having some throat problem.
Yeah.
So I thank Venerable Kamalasiri and Venerable, and also for inviting me. Today I am ready to listen. So I am gratitude to Venerable Prayoga Vajrahamla for his enlightening explanations. So I better remain listening, and furthermore, of course, the mindfulness is the bala, the shakti, the energy, the power to maintain this life and also hereafter. At first, we are trying to maintain and organize and direct properly this life, and then therefore mindfulness is the power. This mindfulness means full mindedness. It can be taken simply full mindedness. That means whatever you talk, whatever you work, whatever you think, you must also together be physical and the non-physical bodies. That mean mind and matter, mind and body, to keep then gate, dikte, nisine, sutte, jagarite, sampajana, kari. That means each and every moment, if you be together, that means if you be together with your mind, with your body movement and vocal movement, if you keep your mind together, that means as you eat well, it is the base of success. No matter whatever good or bad work, whatever it is, it's the base. That means concentration and awareness and also keeping attention. But here we take only the kusala section. Whatever the good work you must do, and then here in America they are concerned in much more importance of their day-to-day secular life. Of course, it is, and real mindfulness also make you understand this thought better, this thought not good, this thought to be followed or not, according to the law, according to the environment, according to the custom, and furthermore according to the religion, ultimately according to the teaching of the Buddha. And then mindfulness is the one who select. Mindfulness is sati is the one who select what is good and what is bad. And also it is mentioned that mindfulness is a doorkeeper. If the doorkeeper doesn't do his job well, actually the inside people will be in danger. then the mindful is the actually its duty is the gatekeeper. And we have to train mindful. We have to train well the gatekeeper, the watcher, to do his job well. And the power it will be actually the base of secular and mundane and supramundane development. Whatever the development we are wishing for, this is the base. Mindfulness is the best friend to be associated well.
Yeah. So I think Bante, Swabita, we this is I think I tend to like this definition that you have given, full mindedness instead of saying mindfulness, full mindedness.
Although most of the time we do not, you do not work with full mind
Yeah.
or quarter. Sometimes no, nothing. It's full mind
Yeah.
or quarter. Sometimes no, nothing.
Uh,
If we try to do, if you do it well, full mindness with full mind, that means attentive. Sati, then Gati, and in Satipatthana Sutta, it is clearly mentioned about even once you pass motion. When you pass motion, no need to put any notices, any information, so anything. Even the passing motion, pass motion. Also, there must be sati. And only we used to do that while we are reading something or while we are watching television, and for doing whatever any other things.
Yeah.
We have no proper attention, full mindedness on that particular work. It actually is very good work. It is a very important work in our day-to-day life and for our body release. And it release not only body, it release mind. Therefore, every moment, even at the time of passing emotions, even mindfulness is the power. Once you do with fullness, it will happen properly. Yeah. It will happen properly. Very good for our and the both. Yeah.
So now here's a kind of simple question, but that may demand more explanation. Now, in this particular sutta of the Samyutta Nikaya, the Sati Bala Sutta, now the question is, why Buddha teach this sati as bala, as power or strength in attaining or realizing enlightenment?
Yeah, the basis actually, it is called in Samadhi Sutta, clearly mentioned. And everything is to be started, and the base is the Samadhi. Samadhi is the first ever preparation for such a long journey. Then Samadhi at first, as what Venerable Yogavachara Rahula mentioned, that the mundane Samadhi is the base and what is good and what is bad. And normally all the other religious teachers and all the other teachers, they used to use as the base the belief. Come and believe. You must believe this. Belief is the base. Instead of that, Buddha reject actual belief, because belief is having certain doubt. Always belief means it has certain doubt. That is why you believe. We should not stay at belief, but we must come out of belief, that means beyond belief. Beyond belief. That is why Samadhi come first. That means ditti means not believe, but you know. It is beyond belief.
Mm-hmm.
But once in the journey, you must go further steps. That is beyond belief. That is knowledge. Then once you come to this, you understand this is good and it is bad. This selection will come, and at this point you will be really helped by something. At mundane level, at the first level of the journey, at the beginning point of the journey, some aditi come first, and then some asati will give you the proper direction. Then the bala, that means proper foundation. Whatever the bigger the bigger the building, there must be the big foundation, strong, deeper foundation. And then, because this journey is a long journey, very, very effortful journey, you have to have such a base and foundation. Therefore, samadhi come to the amasati, then it become the proper base and foundation.
So I'm just wondering whether any venerable monks on this platform has any question regarding this topic, and maybe it's time for us to ask some question from the most venerable Omar Besobitana Mahatera. And also, before you ask this question, I would like to go back to Venerable Yogacha Rahula and Bhante Rahula. So, is there anything to add into what the most venerable Sobita Naikasara said?
Well, I enjoyed his explanation very well. I have maybe one thing I'd like to add is about mindfulness is basically keeping the mind in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because normally our mind is going back and forth between the past and the future. And thinking about the past and the future is the cause of all of our worries, fears, anxieties, greed, hatred, because everything we experience, the mind recognizes that a certain sound or thought or sense impressions, and then it remembers that experience from the past and then projects it into the future with desire or aversion, fear, worry. And so it doesn't allow us, the mind, to stay in the present moment. When the mind is in the present moment, either through concentration, you obtain the jhana level of concentration, or the flow of moment-to-moment mindfulness, that is a kind of liberation. Because that actually leads to the experience of anatta. Because our sense of self depends on the past and the future, depends on pleasure and pain. That's how we relate to everything. So when the mind is flowing from moment to moment, and with that established mindfulness, then, as I mentioned, the past and the future dissolve, and so the ego dissolves, the sense of ego dissolves. And that's one method, the powerful method of experiencing, no self, and realizing the unconditioned mind. That's the unconditioned mind. When the mind is no longer influenced by the sense impressions and the memories of the past and the future, our habits, and the mind attains its natural state of present moment awareness. And that's tantamount to, liberation, a kind of liberation, the first state.
So that is a special power, like even to have the full presence of the mind as the mind goes from moment to moment. So that helps the mind become powerful or gain strength.
Yeah, the strength is the present moment. Learning how to keep the mind from going into thoughts of the past and the future that bring all the defilement. So the mind is flowing in that present moment awareness, and the sense of self doesn't have anything to stand on because it's made up of the past and the future. and pleasure and pain. Those are the two dualities that the mind is constantly moving between, past and future, pain and pleasure. These are they're connected, because the future is connected with desire, the past is connected with the pain for the most part, or desire. But anyway, you know, so by letting go, our mindfulness lets go of the clinging, the upadana to any of the thoughts and emotions, and then the mind opens up. It experiences that moment of, unconditioned.
Yeah, thank you. And also kind of reminded to our audience who are watching us on YouTube and Facebook Live. If you have any question, please write it down. I might take your questions for these variables. And I see Venerable Bhante Kamalasiri raise his hand, and he also requested to share a PowerPoint, something like that. So, Bhante Kamalasiri, what's your
My hand.
Okay.
I have a question for the three monks here, Bhante Sobhita, Bhante Rahul, and Bhante Tadammo. My question is this: I think Bhante Rahul just little bit elder than Bhante Sobhita, but they're in same age. Then Bhante Rahul was in Sri Lanka in a isolated place, and he don't know the language in the local people, and he was silently meditating and practice his way. He never feel anything from the outside. That was his practice in Sri Lanka. But it is different from the Bhante, the monks like Bhante Sobhit. They had a very big relationship with the people and all of the troubles in the society. And they had so many responsibilities and busy life. Then, how did you maintain? Your mindfulness in this background? That is the end. What is the Yuttadhammo now? He also in Sri Lanka and Thailand, and he also not related with the local society, not connected with the day-to-day issues in society. Then how it is benefit for you to practice mindfulness. The three questions from the Bhante. So with how he practiced maintain mindfulness with this in busy life with big responsibility, and how Bhante Rahul practice it in isolated place. Yeah.
So, who would like to go first, Bhante Rahula or Venerable Yuttadhammo?
Where is Bhante Sobhita? Is he there?
Yeah, he is there, but I think his camera is.
You talk and then.
Okay, so let me begin with Bhante Yogacara Rahula.
Well, the way I practice mindfulness is basically I followed the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and I lived out in remote places like the Lucana Forest and other places where there was, wild, there was poisonous snakes and there was centipedes and scorpions and monkeys, and I used that to overcome fear. And you have to be mindful when you're in places like that, because you have to watch where you're walking, step at it. And but I challenge myself to overcome the fears when you're out in the forest like that and hearing things. And so, and to clarify something, I wasn't unaffected by the outside world, as you might have mentioned. I mean, I was affected, but I was using the Dhamma not to allow it to, let's say, run away from, this place is too dangerous, and run back home, or back to, my monastery in Colombo. So, I use that as a challenge. So putting yourself in those positions really makes you mindful. Every step you have to be mindful of where you're stepping and what you're reaching for, because there could be, something there that could cause you problems. So that is one of the powerful ways that I used that practice to help to develop that kind of mindfulness.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Venerable Rahul, reminding me about my duties actually with your experiences. The same experiences, same. Venerable Rahul had to be very much mindful while you were living in the forest, actually with the snakes, various type of snakes. In the society where we are working and we are engaging, there are many snakes in the form of human beings. Deal with the animals, it is actually easy. Really, it is easy. Okay, that dealing with the snakes in the form of human being is extremely difficult thing. Then this difficulty I am facing with, actually I am happily facing the challenge. There are many such snakes in the guise of monks. Nowadays it is the most dangerous thing. In the guise of monks, there are many snakes. They are destroying Buddhism. They are destroying the Dhamma, deforming the Dhamma. And then there are many snakes in the guise of politicians. They are destroying the people's chances, people's lifestyle, actually totally the life of the people and the situation of the country. They have been destroyed by the snakes in the form of politicians, leaders. And then there are many snakes in the form of friends. If the four is very, very easy to understand. There is one father, Christian priest, said to have pray to the God. Oh God, please protect me from my friends. Protection from my enemies, I know the way. Please protect me from my own friends. There are many friends in the guise of good monks, meditators, and very good scholars. There are many such people in the guise, therefore, friends in the guise of carry on good work, meditators, while very good scholars understand the situation, to work for the benefit of the people, work for the benefit of the Buddha Sasana is very, very difficult work in the society. This ability I improved. Only the power what I am having with Attanam Gaveseyata, each and every moment I am thinking about who am I? I am a monk. I am a monk. I am bound with rules and regulations of a monastic system. And then Pativeksha. Pativeksha. Mindfulness, of course, in certain extent, the mindfulness is all the way which is helping me to carry out all these good works. Thank you, Venerable Kamalasiri, for raising this question.
That was so the real natural snakes versus the human snakes.
Yeah.
And of course, we all are facing such snakes in every society, every environment. So that's where I think the challenge comes from. Yeah. So I would like to go to Venerable Yutta Dhammo, who is also one of the mindfulness teachers, and he has been doing amazing. And right now he's joining from Sri Lanka, and he's a Canadian monk. And I remember when Bhante Kamalasri asked that question, that reminded me of Venerable Yuttadhammo, how one of his mindfulness practice that is going on Pindapata went viral when he was going on Pindapata on a village. Someone behind recorded it with his phone or her phone and posted that. And it was amazing to see how he was doing that Pindapata, how the local people serving. So I'm pretty sure Venerable Yuttadhammo may have so much to talk about his mindfulness practice in non-traditional countries. Venerable Yuttadhammo.
Yeah. No, I don't have a lot to say, but just makes me think of how the Buddha said, Sakinchukwang Bhikkhave Sabatikang Vadami. How mindfulness is useful everywhere. When talking about the seven Bojjhangas, that some of them are useful in certain situations, some of them are useful in other situations, but sati is useful everywhere, whether you're in a city, whether you're in the forest. I've lived, as you know, I've lived in very urban locations, and I've lived in the most remote forest, and now I'm living on a mountain. But the remarkable thing that mindfulness teaches you, I think, is that it's all the same. It's all simply these five aggregates arising and ceasing at the six senses, whether you're in the city or whether you're in the forest. Neither the city or the forest comes into play with mindfulness. Of course, mindfulness takes experience as the object, and that experience is, even right now, we're looking at a computer screen or at a phone screen, and we're hearing the sound of each other's voices, and the audience is hearing our voices, and they're thinking about it, and all these things are going on in the moment, and it's mindfulness that grasps those things. Sorry, I don't mean to go on and lecture, but that's my thought, is that it's universal. And it's universal because of how it grasps. I posted a link, I just maybe mention quickly what the commentary says about Satipala, how it becomes a bala is when it nakampati. Kampati means wavering. So when, as the venerables were talking about how it's fixed, and when it's firm, then it's called a power, and that's exactly it, is that it's no longer wavering off into concepts and ideas and reactions and judgments. When the mind is firmly fixed in this paradigm or this perspective of seeing just the experiences, when your mind really is aware of, oh, this is seeing is just seeing, hearing is just hearing, and so on. That's mindfulness. And when grasping like that, grasping in a good sense, grasping means grasping something as it is, having a good grasp on the experience. That's when you truly have mindfulness. And so the point being, it can arise anywhere, whether you're in the city or in the forest. You come to see, especially when traveling, you come to see that that's all it really is.
Yeah, thank you, Venerable Yuttadhammo. Actually, that's a very interesting the sentence you have quoted from the commentary. Mutta sache na kampati ti sati balang. So that's a very interesting thing. So thank you for bringing our attention to that commentary definition. So I'm just wondering, like, again, the question is, in becoming enlightened or awakened or realizing nirvana, the sati has been pointed out as the bala, as the strength, as the power. Now, and of course, we learned so much from Venerable Yoga Rahula, the most venerable Sobhita Nayaka Mahathera, and also now from Venerable Yuttadhammo. Now, in those sutras, actually, there are many such short discourses in that Asankata section, Asankata Sangyutta section. And there are many, at the beginning of every brief sutra, it says the Asankata means the Raga Kaya, Dosa Kaya, Moha Kaya. So, and the path to that Asankata is the Sati Bala. Now, does it mean the Sati has to be a powerful tool to become mindful of those three roots, raga, dosa, moha, and which will this mindfulness help us destroy those three defilements, so root causes, raga, dosa, moha, passion, anger, and delusion. What do you think, Bhante Ramana, about that?
I would probably focus more on the mindfulness, and the concentration helps you to directly see each dukkha and anatta, because that's the criterion for destroying raga, dvesha, and moha. Seeing reality, everything is only momentary. Itself upon it's not being fun. So that the power is what destroys the the defilements. That's why you develop the seven factors of enlightenment, and that penetrates and destroys the first fetters. Or if it's stronger, you destroy greed and hatred. So it's the wisdom. The wisdom is facilitated by the mindfulness and the concentration. So that's the way I would understand.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, Venerable Shanta Sobana from Los Angeles.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sirs. My heartiest respect to all our CTA monks, and also I am so grateful that our Bhante Saranapada came, and it was a real surprise for me. And I really happy to see you. And so when it comes to this Satu, and it's come from it has a Sanskrit root. It's called the Smruti. So the Smruti is the Pali we call the Sati. It explained as the memory, recollection, and the most commonly in Buddhism we call as the mindfulness. So as all the Venerable mentioned that why this Sati become power. So when it comes to in this sutra, we see as Venerable Sarnapala mentioned, there are some other sutras related to the Pancha Bala, Saddha Bala, Virya Bala, Sati Bala, and Samadhi Bala, Panya Bala. So like that, in the middle of this, the Sati Bala is there. So the Sati, where the Sati apply. So the Sati apply according to the Abhidhamma in between the perception and the contact. So when we see something through the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, when we perceive something, before it become eye consciousness or the ear consciousness or the nose consciousness or the tongue consciousness or the body consciousness or the mind consciousness, in between that, we have to apply the sati. Otherwise, what will happen, because of the perception, that what we perceive, our sanskara or the mental formation start to moderate that perception, and then it go to the mind, and then we accept and we repeat it as a habit. So the sati plays a very small role here. Sati is like a lubrication. So it lubricates the in between the perception and the contact. So it lubricates the outside world and the inside understanding. So according to the Abhidhamma, it mentioned that when we have the sati in between the outside object and the inside perceiver, it kind of like our understanding we protect through the awareness, because otherwise it go to misunderstanding maybe. What is the misunderstanding means? We see the right things as wrong, wrong things as right, permanent things as impermanent, impermanent things as permanent, unchangeable things as changeable, changeable things as unchangeable. So
And once our perception become wrong, what will happen? That we're going to clinging to that, then from that point, there is no escape for us. So that's why the sati plays a major role. When we perceive something, if you have the awareness or the sati, that knowingly we are perceiving it, what will happen? It avoiding the power of clinging to it. And that will lead us to have the mindful observation. Because otherwise, once we clinging to it, that we cannot maintain mindful observation. So that continuation and observing, avoiding clinging, observing, avoiding clinging leads us to cultivate the wisdom. So that is why the mindfulness, that the sati play the major role. And another thing is, before the Buddha, as we know, when he left the palace as the Siddhartha, he went to many teachers. So during that time, all the spiritual leaders used to have many kind of mental powers, many kind of spiritual practice. But at the same time, that any practice it reach to Nibbana, or otherwise it's called kind of like a asankata dhatu. That means get out of the samsara, or otherwise get out of the birth. So that's why the Buddha mentioned that he found out the deathlessness. So that means the discontinuation of our sanskara. So when it comes to that, how it related to our present moment of awareness, because we cannot just tell stories. It needs to make sense when we practice. So the important thing is that, as we know, there are during Buddha's time and even before the Buddha's time, there were 5 kind of practice: saddha, virya, sati, samadhi, panya. So those kind of practice, people had the ability to develop the faith, conviction, trust related to something, and they just used only the faith. They never looked into something else. And virya, the effort, as we know, people used to practice many yogic, vigorous, physical, mental practice, and they never into some kind of faith, or sometimes they didn't have any other wisdom. But the important part here, we have to remember how the Prince Siddhartha attained to the Buddhahood. He attained to the Buddhahood through the understanding the cause and effect. Causality. So then what he did, it's a kind of like a very scientific kind of like a experiment. So when it comes to the Ayurveda, so tripala. So there are 3 kind of fruits. When they mix it, that they get the benefit. As we know, the Ayurveda, the subject is very huge. But in the Ayurveda, there is no any other way you can get the benefit, that out of that you get the triple. You cannot find any other medicine mixing that you can get. So only these 3 fruits that you can mix and get the benefit, and there is no any other way to get it from using any other medicine. And even in our Sri Lankan tradition, that we have it called paspangua. So the paspangua means there are 5 kind of the medical herbs, that when you put that all 5 things together and boil it and drink, and you get the benefit that there is no any other way you can get it. So it's a kind of like a very the art of chemistry, like mixing things and get result. So here, what the Buddha found out through the journey towards the enlightenment, now he have the ability to understand the cause and effect. That's why in Buddhism, according to the philosophy, there is nothing we can use just by itself. Always things happen that the connecting is something else. That's a very basic principle in the world, even in the quantum physics. That is one of the basic principles. When you have the ability to have observe and understand the reverse mechanism, you understand things happen because of many reasons. So then, when it comes to the enlightenment, so here this sutra directly lead to the enlightenment. So then, how the enlightenment happened and how the sati become the most the power, because when it comes to the faith itself cannot use. Maybe in the conventional level, you can trust, you have the conviction, you have the faith towards something. But when it comes to the enlightenment path, always you have to remember, you have to keep the sati next to the faith. That is where that you can get the best out of your conviction or the trust. Otherwise, you may go kind of like a wrong way or misunderstand. And when it comes to the energy or the effort, see how many we all are busy. Every day we are busy than the honey bees. But sometimes it is not productive. It is not profitable end of the day. So the very reason is we are not capable to keep the sati or the awareness next to our energy or the effort. So the sati, that's why sati is like the lubrication. It can use for all these 5 spiritual powers. So even for the samadhi, as we know, there are many spiritual leaders attain to many kind of different way of samadhi. But when it comes to the Buddha's teaching, that whatever the samadhi we should attain with the mindfulness. If there is no mindfulness, that is not the right samadhi. So during there is a discussion with the Venerable Ananda and one of another spiritual practitioner. So then they were talking about the nature of the samadhi. So other spiritual practitioner mentioned, oh, my teacher one day, he was sat under the tree and attained to the samadhi. Close to that tree, there were 500 bull cart went. But my teacher didn't know about it because he was in the samadhi. So then when Venerable Ananda mentioned, oh, our spiritual leader, that means the Buddha, one day he was in the samadhi, there was a lightning and thunder hit next to the tree, next to his the tree he was sitting, got disturbed out of it, but he knew it is a thunder. That's it. So it's not a kind of like a mesmerized, or you get lost. So nowadays, even today, there are many spiritual leaders we see. They talk about the samadhi and they say they were practicing in the top of the mountain, and then after 5 days they awake and they didn't know what happened to them. And a lot of followers say, "Oh, sadhu, sadhu," because you are in the samadhi. But in Buddhism, that is not maybe it is a samadhi because it has many levels, but it is not the right samadhi lead to the nibbana. It always need to be with the mindfulness. Even the wisdom the same. So we can attain to wisdom in many ways, but if there is no mindfulness next to that wisdom, so whatever we understand, sometimes we get tangled in our own understanding, and we cannot get out of it. That's why inner tangle, outer tangle. So that's why the here sati is a kind of like a giving the lubricant.
I'll be contributing here shortly.
All these other mental spiritual practice and help us to uplift it, because that upliftment is very necessary when we go towards the right path, rather than going towards the wrong way.
Yeah.
mindfulness is the sati is a kind of like the navigation, help us again and again when we go wrong, turn to left or turn to right, to kind of like keep us on the right track. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shanto Sobana. That was a nice insight that you have shared, and it makes much sense. So next, I would like to go to our birthday boy, Bante Kusula from Boston. Actually, yesterday he celebrated, as he said, what do you call, double 15 plus 7 birthdays. Double 15 plus 7. So, Bante Kusala, what's in your mind? How do you see this mindfulness as the bala?
Thank you, Bante. I appreciate you mentioning my birthday. I said it's the second 15th birthday and plus 7. So
okay.
When you sent the link to join the discussion today, you did not ask me to do the summary, so I knew some big monks were joining then. And I think I opened the link to find out Bante Rahul has joined and Bante Sobita has joined and Bante Uttadamo has joined. I knew. I think the conversation will get interesting, and the experience that it got very very nice and very meaningful with the inputs. I think when we go to the sutta, we find dots. I think that is what I like to discuss, and perhaps our venerable monks, seniors, can add a little bit more to the discussion. It says that ida bhikkhavi bhikkhu satibalang bhaveti ... ayam uchyate bhikkhavi. So the dots have in there viveka nissitang, viraga nissitang, what is the other one? Vosagga parinaming and nirodha nissitang. So I think with your question of living in the city or in the forest, I think depending on what situation the monks go to, I mean, they can experience, I think the way Venerable Sobita mentioned, I think it resonates very well with our lives, that we experience humans disguised as snakes. In those moments, I think what triggers in us is the aversion, anger, and we may want to react. In that moment, I think that viveka, seclusion, can come to our mind. Seclusion in the sense of letting go of that anger and choosing loving kindness. I think this is where the forest monk or the city monk experience Dhamma. The other aspect is that Vosagga parinaming is a beautiful word where it asks us to transform our self-ego. Whatever we are experiencing, we transform our self-ego. Whatever we are experiencing, we transform our ego to, self, to see the dependent origination. When we see the dependent origination, I think that false view of a self dissolves right there. Viraga is also dispassion. I think whatever we experience, we have a choice with mindfulness to bring it to a lustful experience, passionate experience, or an experience free from passion, letting go of that passion and lust. And Nirodha is seeing the cessation, letting go, and seeing that whatever is arising right here, right now, it is also vanishing. It is also disappearing. I think for us to see all that, I think it requires a kind of mindfulness unlike other. when we are experiencing right mindfulness, I think we are seeing the presence of the mind. That is also perhaps another explanation we can add. I think we can perhaps bring those dots to the discussion and perhaps listen from the senior monks. Thank you, Bante.
Thank you. So, okay, I think now they have heard your question, so let me see whether they're willingly say something. Meantime, I see Venerable Fidel from Florida who raised his hand. So please share your sight for a few minutes. Fidel.
Thank you so much for having me, all of the most venerable that is present today. First of all, I have a novice that's watching and he wants to scan your QR code. So for those who have missed the QR code, please wait for the conclusion of today's biweekly. You can go back to the beginning to see the QR code. Please participate in any way, shape, or form that you can. Realize that the presence of all of the venerables here and other bhikkhus around the world is extremely rare, as they are still alive and teaching, because AI will take over. So any events that you can participate will contribute to your mindfulness and subsequent great benefits within the Dhamma. Also, I wanted to direct everyone to Most Venerable Yutatamo, who I got to briefly meet with brief conversations back in April. And wherever you follow Most Venerables, good, qualifying, authentic, and experienced teachers, as you all can see here present today, good things happen. As a result of trying to chase after Venerable Yutatamo at Wat Rampen, I was able to run into the two relics, the two chief disciple relics in Chiang Mai. And also good things happened when I went to Venerable Sarnapala in Canada. Today's discussion very important as we see direct evidence, empirical evidence-based, of the results of not being mindful. After the election happened, there were empirical reports from doctors that I work with, how patients come in, not themselves, and a shift in consciousness and a shift in elevated anger, elevated hatred. And I spoke to former bhikkhu Adrian that practiced 6 years in Thailand. And he says, Florida's got this thing where they hang on to old beliefs. There are some states that I would never come and visit, as he's coming to Florida to see me. But upon such reflection, reviews that people do hang on to things. We call that attachment. We call that clinging on to old ideas, old views, old political views. Doesn't really lead one to be peaceful. And how that, has a lasting impression for people across the U.S. and in the world. Who wants to come to a state that people are just stuck in their old set and ways? Mindfulness is important. Sati is important, because just look around you. You can't be drunk to see other people drunk. You can't be mindless to see other people mindless. You have to be mindful to see other people being mindless. Just sit back and just observe how your friends and family forget their keys, lose their wallets. Why do you think people coming up Black Friday and Cyber Monday is going to buy more Apple AirTags? Because they're not mindful. Monks have 3 pair of robes. Can you imagine if I'm like, I can't find my other pair? Anyone see my other orange pair anywhere? Maybe I should have my mom sew an Apple AirTag onto my robes. So it is funny, but it's also not. Because as the world progresses forward, we have something called information diet. People equate other people's opinion for truth. Gen Zs and Alpha equate other people's opinion for facts and truth. No. People equate information for facts and truth. No. Be mindful of what you digest in your mind. Know that the Dhamma, the Four Noble Truth, is undisputable, irrefutable truth in the world. everything we teach will stand strong, even when we no longer exist. I find it challenging as an emerging young teacher in teaching mindfulness because of what's happening in the world and the constant evolving world, constant evolution of the mind and psychology that poses different directions from the political arena to the marketing arena to the consumer arena. Eating more, doing more, having more, collecting more. I hope that everyone take this today's sutta very seriously and re-examine the word sati again and look at your life as to how are you driving mindfully? Are you, are you, whatever it is that you're doing, the management of your time, are you doing it mindfully? As a direct result of that, mindfulness will lead to great joy and happiness and will save you a lot of money. Forgetting things, forgetting to fuel up, forgetting to stop by here, running errands, forgetting to say I love you to your loved ones, just forgetting things costs you. It can cost your wallet too. So in the most realistic and practical way, mindfulness can save your life. Not mindful while you're driving, not mindful while you're uh, crossing the street, not mindful at the time of this talk. You can miss a lot of very important words that will lead you towards enlightenment and or closer to it. So I just wanted to contribute the clinical aspect, the clinical applications and everyday mindfulness to all. We hear that a lot, and we see a lot of magazines, and every year they sell the same magazines at Publix and Barnes and Noble. Mindfulness, mindfulness magazine. Why? Well, because people need it. They wouldn't sell it if you didn't need it. Um, and blessed all of the venerables here who are making all of these public events possible for people to get more medicine, more mindfulness medicine into your bloodstream, into your consciousness, into everyday life. It is a constant battle of attention, constant battle of attention, unwavering focus. That's what mindfulness is. Unwavering, unbroken, continuous stream of being present with you, with what you're saying, with what you're doing, with what's happening in the present moment, with your emotions, with your perception. So I'd like to yield the floor back as we have other questions. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Venerable Fidel. Actually, it's very interesting how you perceive the mindfulness practice in daily life. So it's very good to know. I would like to, I'm very glad that our most venerable Dr. Rahula is still hanging around with us here. And now Bhante Rahula, Venerable Kusala pointed out something very interesting. I'm wondering whether you could you have any insight to share regarding what he pointed out.
Well, if you could just repeat those dots, those three dots,
Yeah,
the meanings that he conveyed.
Bhante, the Vivekanists practicing sati as a power or strength. Vivekanisita. Viveka, as you know, is seclusion. Viraganisita, associated with dispassion, and Nirodha Nisita, associated with cessation, and then was Sagga Parinami, maturing in relinquishing. These are the four terms packed in between, and that leads us to Asankhata state. Asankhata Gamini Patipada, the path leading to unconditioned, as you know. And I think you could, I think the word Asankhata came up before, and I liked, because Bhante Sarnapala mentioned that. I think the question about city life and forest life became very interesting for all of us. Because of the way the monks lead their lives now, I believe in all of that there is viveka seclusion, there is dispassion, there is cessation in their hearts, and there is also relinquishing of action, there is cessation in their hearts, And there is also relinquishing of the notion of a self in all their doings. I believe it's a continuous thing, and I think it requires mindfulness. That perhaps that explains it.
Absolutely. And so the seclusion means you're secluded. The mind's no longer paying attention to whatever sounds, smells, tastes, touches, or thoughts are coming through your senses or mind. And the mind grounded in the present moment prevents that creates that seclusion, because it's letting go of thoughts about the or ideas about the past and the future connected with any of those sensory stimulations. And so therefore you become secluded from there. They're not touching the mind. They're not stirring up our passions. And because of that, the greed and the hatred vanish, because greed and hatred come up only when you're identifying objects with that desire or aversion for the past and the future. And then that leads to the nirodha, the dissolution of the ego, as I mentioned. And also, when the mind's not creating the world from moment to moment, then it seems like the constructed world, the conditioned world, sort of dissolves, and you experience this vibration of pure present moment awareness that has no longer any objective kind of connections to it. And so that also experiences, leads to the no self. So nirodha and no self occur simultaneously in that sense, and also the no self of objects. When we call something an object like this, a coffee cup, we've given that cup a selfhood. We've created a self out of it. But actually, the reality is just some baked clay or something like that, or any other object. When we call something a man or a woman or a dog or a cat, it's the mind that's creating those objects. So when you're in that state of the strength of mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, all those things, all those four things that you've mentioned, seclusion, dispassion, cessation, and no self, they basically occur nearly simultaneously. And that is due to that strength of the mindfulness. The mindfulness is not wavering from the present moment, not going out to react to it. And I have just one last thing I just would leave with you, is that mindfulness a day keeps dukkha away.
Yeah. Actually, I always say that to myself, and even in my email communication, during retreats, I talk about it. And I knew somehow at one point you would be highlighting that, so that worked out so well. So thank you so much, and I wish our the most senior guest monk could have been here to share more of his insight, but due to his, I think, unwellness, he had to leave. And I also want to acknowledge the presence of Venerable Uttamasara, and he, with great interest and enthusiasm, he keeps watching this program and listening to this discussions. I really wanted to acknowledge you, Venerable Uttamasara. Thank you so much for joining this discussion. And having said that, I would like to. I also want to give a good news to our Dhamma friends in Canada, in Toronto. Our most venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi is going to visit Toronto next week. He will be here for 2 weeks, so we are hoping to organize some Dhamma programs, and so those who are in town in Toronto, yeah, you will be so fortunate to. I think the Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi is visiting Toronto for a long time, and he said this would be the last visit to Canada. So we are hoping to organize some gentlemen, I would like to remind our friends once again. I'm having this. This is seventh annual Kindful Panda Symposium, and I'm so passionate about spreading kindfulness, calling every country mindful and kind nation. So every year I invite experts from different fields to come to one place to build this kindful environment. So we will be doing group meditation, group tai chi practice, group qigong practice, in addition to inspiring presentations by these experts. So those who are interested, is happening on November 16th in Oakville. So you can just scan the QR code to get all the information and also participate together. And with this in mind, I would like to conclude today's 89th Sutta discussion. And we don't have anyone who is willingly reciting the Over the Patimokkha verses, but I would like to, since no one is here, let me recite the Over the Patimokkha verses. Sabba papassa akaranam kusalassa upasampada sacitta pariyodapanam etang buddhana sasanam khanti paramam tapotitika Nibbanam paramam vadanti buddha nahi pabbajito paropadhati samano hoti parang vihedhayanto anupavado anupadhato adimokhecha samvaro Matanyutaja bhattasmin Pantancha sayanasanam Adhichitte cha ayoga Etang buddhana sasanam Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So once again, I'm very grateful to Bante Kamlasuri for bringing the most venerable Omalpe Sobita Naika Mahatera to this discussion. And I'm also very grateful to have all of you, and of course Bante Yoga Rahula and all the venerable monks and our lay people for our 89th bi-weekly Sutta discussion. So let me just bring the blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha for your good contributions. May all the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem continue to be with all of you throughout your life for good health, happiness, and peace. May Devas, celestial beings, continue to protect and guard all of you with the divine blessings for your health and safety. Sabbe Satta Bhavantu